Let's get right into it. Number 9. Talking to yourself. Ever walk into a room and start talking out loud when nobody else is there? Don't worry, you're not necessarily losing it. Sometimes your brain is simply outsourcing its thoughts. Talking to yourself can help you organize information, solve problems, remember instructions, and regulate your behavior. When you say something out loud, you're turning a vague thought into actual language your brain can examine. It's basically like putting your thoughts on a whiteboard instead of letting them bounce around your skull like unpaid tenants. And people who regularly think out loud may be using language as a tool for problem solving rather than just communication. Of course, if you're having a full argument with yourself and somehow losing both sides, that's a different achievement. Number 8. Asking, why? Too much. Some people hear an explanation and immediately accept it. You hear one and think, okay, but why? Then you ask another question, then another, and suddenly everyone regrets explaining anything to you. Constant questioning can reflect intellectual curiosity, the tendency to investigate how and why things work instead of simply accepting information. Curious people are more likely to explore unfamiliar subjects, challenge assumptions, and connect ideas from different areas. Your brain basically refuses to accept the factory settings. It wants to open the machine and see what happens if you remove that suspicious little screw. Just don't actually remove the screw from the machine. Number 7. Enjoying being alone. You don't always need a crowd. Sometimes you'd rather sit somewhere quiet, listen to music, read something interesting, or simply disappear into your own thoughts. And no, enjoying solitude doesn't automatically mean you're antisocial. People who are comfortable spending time alone have more opportunity for reflection, independent thinking, and uninterrupted concentration. Your brain finally gets some peace from notifications, conversations, and someone explaining a movie you are currently watching. Solitude gives your thoughts room to stretch. But there's a difference between enjoying being alone and becoming a mysterious cave creature who communicates exclusively through head nods. Balance, people. Number 6. Changing your mind. Imagine confidently defending an opinion for 20 minutes. Then, someone gives you better evidence, and instead of becoming furious, you say, I might actually be wrong. That is intellectual flexibility. Changing your mind when new evidence appears isn't weakness. It's basically your brain updating its software instead of proudly running version 2007 forever. Intelligent thinking isn't about being correct every single time. It's about being able to recognize when your reasoning needs an update. Your ego wants to win the argument. Your brain wants to find the truth. And unfortunately, those two co-workers don't always get along. Number 5. Getting bored easily. You finish something interesting. 5 minutes later, you're bored. So you start researching something completely unrelated. Then you watch a documentary. Then you somehow end up learning how ancient people made toothpaste. Congratulations! Your brain has wandered into another rabbit hole. A strong need for mental stimulation can be associated with curiosity and openness to new experiences. Some people simply need more cognitive variety before their attention starts screaming for something else. That's why repetitive environments can feel especially painful. Your brain isn't necessarily lazy. It might just be saying, could we please give the neurons something to do? And suddenly you're watching a 40-minute video about why octopuses have 3 hearts. Number 4. Overthinking simple things. You send a message. They don't reply. Now your brain has produced 12 possible explanations, 3 imaginary conversations, and 1 completely unnecessary investigation into their online activity. Overthinking isn't automatically a sign of intelligence, but people with strong analytical tendencies can sometimes spend more time examining possibilities, consequences, and hidden meanings. The same mental machinery that helps you spot patterns can also make you notice patterns that aren't there. Your brain is basically a detective who sometimes investigates the toaster, useful when solving complicated problems. Less useful at 2 a.m. when you're wondering why someone replied okay instead of okayy. Number 3. Being easily distracted by interesting things. You sit down to study. You notice a random question. You look it up. That question leads to another question. 3 websites later, you're learning how volcanoes work. you were supposed to study economics. This can happen because curiosity pulls your attention toward information that suddenly becomes more interesting than the original task. People who are highly curious often explore widely, jumping between topics and making unexpected connections. The problem? Your brain doesn't always understand the difference between important and interesting. So yes, your exam is tomorrow. But apparently we urgently need to know how ants decide where to build a nest. Priorities are looking fantastic. Number 2, making weird connections. You hear a song. It reminds you of a childhood memory. That memory reminds you of a movie. The movie reminds you of a historical event. And somehow your brain has connected all three. This kind of associative thinking allows you to link ideas that don't obviously belong together. That's useful for creativity, problem solving, storytelling, and generating unusual solutions. Your brain doesn't always travel in a straight line. Sometimes it takes the scenic route through 6 unrelated topics and somehow arrives at something useful. It's basically Google Maps, with absolutely no respect for the fastest route. Number 1, you know what you don't know. This one is probably the most interesting. Imagine someone who knows a lot, but constantly says, "I'm not sure." Meanwhile, someone who knows almost nothing is standing on the internet yelling with absolute confidence. That's the difference between knowledge and intellectual humility. Recognizing the limits of your own knowledge is a form of metacognition, being able to think about your own thinking. You understand that your brain can make mistakes. Your memory can be wrong. Your assumptions can be incomplete. And sometimes the smartest answer really is, "I don't know yet." That's not your brain being weak. That's your brain leaving the door open for better information. Because pretending you know everything is easy. Real intelligence can handle uncertainty. So if you recognize several of these habits in yourself, don't immediately start walking around calling yourself a genius. Your brain has enough ego already. The interesting part isn't whether these habits prove you're intelligent. It's whether you're constantly curious, willing to learn, capable of changing your mind, and comfortable admitting when you don't know something. That's where things get genuinely interesting. That's all for today. I'll be making more videos like this, so subscribe if you don't want to miss them.